Okay, we're talking about dissociative identity disorder, and like I said, it used to be called multiple personality disorder. It is when there are several people existing within the same person, um, and it's caused by severe child abuse because we all go through periods of fantasy when we are a young kid. Um, if you're a little girl, you played with dolls. Maybe if you're a boy, not saying there's anything wrong with that, but you play with dolls, you have your own little fantasy world. I remember when I was a boy, I'd be playing with little trucks. I'd make little truck noises, and do all kinds of different things with my cars and crash them and do all that stuff. But I'm in a fantasy world at that point. Well, your mom calls you for dinner. You're out of the fantasy world. You're back in the regular world. Well, when kids are being abused at that time period in their life, sometimes they revert and stay in that fantasy world because that way, when that when that person is gone, when that fantasy is somewhere else, they don't hurt as badly. Sometimes they can't snap out of it. They can't come back to reality. So it's a really, really sad thing, and it's usually caused by child abuse. Perhaps it would be, witnessing a really bad event or something like that. But most of the time, it's caused by severe child abuse. It's very rare. Um, Depersonalization disorder is kind of an out-of-body experience. Your body's there, but your mind has checked out. You see, when you hear stories of people that have been dead for a few minutes and then come back to life, they see themselves, they're floating up above themselves, and they see themselves at a distance. Again, very, very rare. There's no idea as to why these occur. I mean, we think child abuse is a big issue, horrible experiences, but we don't have an exact cause for that. All right, somatoform disorders. It's an expression of psychological distress through physical symptoms. In other words, it is combining mental with physical. Conversion disorder, the best case of this is a change in the use or a loss of physical functioning of a major body part. It's characterized by a person's lack of concern with this problem. What I mean by this is, let's say that my child is causing screaming and screaming, screaming, won't shut up, and I, God forbid, slap the baby and cause severe issues with the baby or something like that. And now I can't use my right arm because the guilt and everything else has caused my brain to just shut my right arm down. It'll hang there, won't do anything. I don't seek treatment for it. Other people are like, what's wrong with his arm? And he'll change, he'd change the subject. They don't really concern. They'll start right and left-handed, but that arm will just hang there. It's almost like they've had a stroke, but it's a total mental issue. It's called conversion disorder. Pretty rare. Hypochondriasis. When somebody's a hypochondriac, they have an unrealistic preoccupation with the fear that they're seriously ill. They watch Dr. Phil, or they see Dr. Oz or one of those stupid shows on TV, and they go, "Oh, I've got 5 of these 12 symptoms. That's me. I've got that disorder." They'll always worried about, "Oh, I've got this. I've got this. I've got this." It's a preoccupation. I mean, it's really, they're really worried about it all the time. Most of us don't give it any other thought. The reasons, a lot of it some people think that it's due mainly to repressed emotions that transfer symbolically into physical symptoms. Guilt is probably the biggest of these things. You feel that you're guilty of something, so therefore your arm doesn't work or your leg doesn't work. Schizophrenia, another big one here. Lack of contact with reality. It usually occurs in early adulthood, late teens, early 20s, and it gets worse. It's degenerative, so it will keep getting worse. Symptoms include hallucinations, delusions, other types of thoughts disorder. They can't put any sentence together. Or voices might tell them to harm themselves or others. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam Killer, he said that the neighbor's dog had told him to kill the people that he did. Most dogs don't do that. They may experience delusions of grandeur. They think they're on some kind of secret mission to save the world. I've just got something that nobody else is going to understand. I got to tell the president. Perhaps you saw the movie A Beautiful Mind. He was a schizophrenic. He had these delusions of grandeur. He constantly thought that he was saving the world by doing the work that he was doing. In actuality, he wasn't really doing any of it. They may skip to a topic, from one topic to another with no disorder. You talking to them about how to bake a cake, and about halfway through they switch down to how to fix a car. Um, all over the place. They're just obviously a short circuit there. They might slip into a catatonic stupor, which is like a coma. Their mind has checked out, their body's still there. They're in like a comatose type state. It is very debilitating. A lot of these people commit suicide. They don't get help, and they will do something obviously much more drastic. But they can't keep a job because they can't keep their thoughts in mind in order. Well, there's a couple different types of schizophrenia. This is based on the duration and the recurrence of the symptoms, how often they happen. Paranoid schizophrenia is when these people believe that others are plotting against them. They're very distrustful of others. They don't trust anybody else at all. They think, we're going to go into some personality disorders which aren't quite so bad, but the schizophrenia think think that others are watching them. In actuality, there's nobody, maybe even not even there, but there might be just people in the room, and they think, oh, look, this guy's looking at me. Not necessarily the case. Disorganized schizophrenia, they're incoherent in thought and speech, disorganized in behavior, usually neglect their hygiene. They might lose bladder control. When I lived downtown for a while, you'd see people that were down there talking to themselves on the corner, collecting aluminum cans, and look like they've had the same clothes on for a year. A lot of the people that are homeless are disorganized schizophrenics. They can't keep anything together, so they lose their jobs, they lose everything, and they're out on the street. Catatonic schizophrenia would be if I froze into a particular pose for hours. I might just freeze with my arm in the air. If you saw Patch Adams, there was some of that in there. It's a catatonic schizophrenic. Like I said, pretty rare, but they'll freeze into a particular position for a long, long time. Now, reasons for this suggest it might be caused by an inappropriate childhood. Maybe you were abused or molested as a young kid. It causes you to break with reality. The brain of a schizophrenic patient looks different than the normal brain. The synapses and the amount of dopamine in their system are different. Their brain is different. It short circuits constantly, so they really have a hard time keeping up with the rest of us. There is a tie between heredity and schizophrenia. If your parents are schizophrenic or your grandparents, you got a good chance of being that as well. And complications around the time of your birth. If your mother is in the third trimester and she gets some type of viral infection like the chicken pox or measles or something like that, you have a better chance of having schizophrenia. Alright, let's get to these personality disorders. They're patterns of inflexible traits that disrupt social life or work and distress the affected individual. Unlike other PDs, they can't be distinguished from the personality of an individual. If you haven't met people so far that are just complete jerks, possibility is that they might have a personality disorder. They just can't get along with anybody. There are a couple different types. You have paranoid personality disorder. Now, it's not a paranoid schizophrenic, but they have a personality disorder. It means they're just very distrustful, suspicious of others. They think that you're trying to cheat them. You're out to get them some way. They tend to be argumentative and usually live very isolated lives because they can't get along with anybody. This is different than paranoid schizophrenia because they're not confused about reality, but they just have a distorted view of it. They might say, well, that guy over there is, and if you're in a crowded restaurant or something, that guy's looking at me. At least the person would be there. Maybe there's a television over your head that they're actually watching, but you can't quite see the difference. So they are very distrustful, but they don't see things that aren't there. They just have a different view of how that. Let's say you don't get any mail one day, and this person with the personality disorder would say, "Oh, that's that government. They're reading my mail," something like that. It doesn't mean that the mailman is an alien or something like that, but it's just a little bit lighter level than the schizophrenics. The schizoid personality disorder, they have no interest in relationships with anyone. They're a complete loner. They want to stay away from other people. They don't like other people. They don't have delusions or hallucinations, but they just do not want any contact with other people. Antisocial personality disorder. Sorry, these are going out of order here. Schizotypical have an odd social behavior that isolates them. Maybe they can't stop picking their nose. And obviously people don't want to be around somebody who picks their nose. Maybe they, scratch themselves. God knows what they could do, but they have some types of social behavior. Maybe they make an odd noise when, they get excited. Who knows? But it's something that isolates them. They avoid relationships because they fear not fitting in because of this particular quirk that they have. The antisocial people show a total disregard for the violation of rights of others. They do not care about anybody else's feelings. This is the person who would, you're standing in line, there's 10 people standing in line, this is the person who walks right to the front and expects to be taken care of. They just do not care about anybody else. No guilt or remorse for their behavior. The guys that work for the mob, that are hitmen for the mob, antisocial personality disorder. They don't think twice about it. Don't care, this is my job, this is what I'm doing. Borderline personality disorder, have unstable moods, chaotic personal relationships. This person is drama all the time. It could be self-mutilating, they could be a cutter, seeking that attention. Histrionic personality disorder, overly emotional, seek constant attention as well. Some of these kind of blend together, so don't panic if you're going, oh my God, these are really close. They may be overly seductive and easily influenced by others. These are the people that would follow somebody around no matter what. Narcissistic personality disorder, believe that others should admire them all the time. They want to be constantly the center of attention. They show little empathy towards others, exploit other people in order to get what they need. Very narcissistic, only looking at themselves. Avoidant personality disorders, these people want an interpersonal relationship but don't pursue it because of tremendous fear of disapproval. They'd be extremely shy. They would like to talk to people, but just can't make it happen. They're just so horrified of being rejected. These people might also have some type of a social phobia. Dependent personality disorder, very dependent on others. They will not make decisions on their own. This is the stereotypic lady that has lived with her husband for 60 years. He's made all the decisions. He's done everything. He's decided exactly what's going to happen, where they're going to go, what they're going to do, what they're going to eat. And finally, he's gone, and now she's stuck because she has never made a decision on her own. They don't want to do that because they fear screwing up, so they would rather rely on somebody else. They fear being left alone. It's horrifying for them. Obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, not as bad as obsessive-compulsive disorder, but the personality disorder is like a light version of that. Very inflexible, fixated with rules and orderliness. They might work more hours because they want everything to be exactly like that. Now, I know I have students that are like this. They have to have everything exactly perfect on their paper. Everything has to be just so. The reasons for these things, studies have shown that children that are rejected by adults and harshly punished rather than treated with affection tend to have this lack of guilt. So those persons that are antisocial personality disorder, they have a lot of that. If they've never been shown affection, that's what happens. Behavioral theorists think that children are not reinforced for good stuff, but only receive attention for bad. They will develop the antisocial stuff. And that is the end. Hopefully these lectures are somewhat informative. I hope they are. If you have any questions, please let me know. And it's been my pleasure having you in my class. Thanks.